Welcome. Happy Friday to you. So, as you'll recall, the name has changed. This is Relax into Health, Wealth, and Happiness. And that is a true possibility. So, let's see how we can do that. So, first of all, relax. It's like I'm reminded of one of my favorite jokes. It's a Steve Martin joke. How to make $1 million and not pay taxes. You may be wondering. So the answer is, first, you make $1 million. And then second, you don't pay taxes. So this is a bit like that. Okay. So here, it's like what everybody wants, right? That sounds great. Relax into health, wealth, and happiness. You say, okay, how do I do that? Well, first you relax, and then you just be that health, wealth, and happiness. Oh, and then the next part of the joke says well, and if the tax collector comes after you and says, well, why didn't you pay taxes? You say, I forgot. So I guess the next part of the joke is, so, step one, you relax. Step two, you be the health, wealth, and happiness. And step three, if your mind comes in and says, whatever, anything, just forget. Don't get sucked into it. Because all of those thoughts are coming from the conditioning of the past. So they're all of the past. And you have to make a commitment. There has to be a clear commitment. Without a commitment, it's nothing. It's a marriage, right? So a marriage without a commitment is nothing. It's meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. I mean, it really is meaningless without the commitment. And so too here, there has to be a commitment. Without the commitment, it's meaningless. So if you say, oh, that sounds great, I'd like to relax into health, wealth, and happiness, but you're unwilling to commit, then it's absolutely meaningless, and you will get no real benefit from it, because the benefit comes from the commitment. And the commitment means that whatever follows, you have to be willing to not get involved, because all that follows is all just what came before. It's just a repetition of the past. So the commitment comes because there's a recognition, I'm done with the past. The past is done. I don't want any more of that. I don't want to repeat that. So if that's not clear, and it's like, if you're not clear that you're ready to make a commitment, don't get married. It's ridiculous. Why bother with that? That's only going to be painful, because it's a lie. So if you're not willing to make a commitment to health, wealth, and happiness, don't bother. Go chase after other things. Honestly, sincerely, it won't do you, it's absolutely pointless. Won't do you any good. It's only something that you can, it's just for gratification of the ego to say, oh, look, I'm doing something. But that's not going to help you. So it has to be a commitment. So I say it's a joke, because it is like that joke, how to make $1 million and not pay taxes. Everybody wants that, but the answer doesn't help you. How do you make $1 million and not pay taxes? First, you make $1 million. How do you do that? So how do you relax? It's a $1 million question. So let's take a look at what it is not. And in order to do that, all we have to do is look to our own experience. Okay, so you can do this with eyes open. You can do it with eyes closed. I will recommend at first do it with eyes closed. It will be a little easier. So I will close the eyes because it's easier for me, especially since I'm describing and speaking at the same time. So let's take a look and see. Okay, so here's this instruction: relax. Now, just watch to see all of the suggestions, recommendations, ideas, thoughts that surface from the mind. It's like that overeager student. Oh, I know the answer. Call on me. So just watch. It's going to tell you, do this, do that. Oh, you're doing that wrong. What about that? Fix that. Oh, did you notice this? How about that? So it makes all of these suggestions, and just watch, just see how you can't get any of them ever quite right. So there's, to a certain extent, and we talked about this, I think, for those who were there on Wednesday, we talked about it on Wednesday, I think, that there is the low-hanging fruit. If you've explored this often enough, then you've begun to create a pathway to deep relaxation in the nervous system. So to a certain extent, there is something of value there. It gives you a direction. There is something that the mind can offer. It does offer a direction because you've explored this before. But then you follow that, it's the low-hanging fruit. So you notice whatever your pathway is. If you've heard me give some recommendations, you notice the connection of your body with the surface that you're on. Notice any unnecessary effort you're making there, how you may be straining, lifting away from that surface, and just let that go. Just be willing to surrender that, because you can recognize that surface has you. You are absolutely held by that, unless you're sitting on some sort of rickety stool, in which case don't do that. Be well supported. And then you can notice the other things that just are, again, the low-hanging fruit. So are you clenching the teeth? Are you pressing the tongue? Squeezing the forehead? So you can just let those go. And we're not aiming for perfection. This is not about getting it absolutely 100%, because that only leads to more unnecessary struggle. So just whatever you can easily, effortlessly let go. And that might just be 1%. That's fine. Don't worry about it. 1% is better than no percent. Then you can notice, what about in the space between the shoulders? Maybe that can soften a little bit. Maybe the back of the head. Maybe you can release the throat. Maybe the wrists, the palms, the fingers. And then you can become aware of the breath and just notice if you're holding the breath in any way, restricting the breath. So just soften there. Just be aware of the full cycle of the inhalation and the exhalation, and just let it be relaxed. So there's no strain involved. You're not forcing anything. You're not squeezing anything. You're not pushing anything. You're not trying to breathe. You're just relaxing into the breath. You're allowing that breath to occur. And you may find there are spasms. Usually there will be, so don't be concerned about that. Just don't be worried about whatever you find. Just keep letting go. Now, at a certain point, there's no more low-hanging fruit. So this is what I'm talking about. When you get to this point, now you cannot rely on any past experience or knowledge any longer. It won't do you any good, because this is completely unknown. So here you are, you're at the edge, there's nothing known. It's like you're staring into this, depending on how you perceive it, it's like a deep cavern or a thick fog. But in either case, you can't really see where you're going. You don't know how to do it. It's unknown. That's the nature of it. Now, notice here is where your brain is going to try and give you some kind of useful information or useful experience, but it cannot. So this can be a point where it might be frustrating. Maybe you feel numb, or you blank out, you zone out, or maybe you grow frustrated. Maybe you notice anger, overwhelm. Any of these things are possible. And so here, if you keep asking, well, what do I do? How do I do it? At a certain point, you have to admit you don't know how. There's no way for you to know how, because you, as you conceive of yourself, this is the limit. Beyond this is not you, not as you conceive of yourself. You don't exist there. So I'm reminded of the I think it's from the book of Luke. Don't quote me on that. It's easier for a camel to enter through a eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter into heaven. So here we are at a place where we can't go. If we wish to go further, we can't go, because we are that baggage. We are all of the past. We are that. Anything you can think about, anything you can conceive, anything you can scheme about, So now you can just start to take a look at how much effort is involved in maintaining that. The self-protective mechanism, this self-defense, I've got to be safe. I've got to look good. I've got to know the answer. But I have to have a plan. I have to know the way. I can't fail, can't falter. See how much effort is involved in maintaining that. And if it feels uncomfortable at all, that's good. If it doesn't feel uncomfortable, that's all right too. It doesn't have to, but if it does feel uncomfortable, if you feel uncomfortable, don't worry about it. Don't think that you're doing it incorrectly. In fact, that's a positive indication. But don't cling to that either. Just be willing to let that go. So here, this is what it really means to deeply relax. It means that you are becoming aware of the deeper layers of tension that were below your conscious threshold. You had to keep it below the conscious threshold because these were the composite components of your identity. And as soon as you start to sink below that conscious threshold and you become aware of the discomfort of all of these pieces and parts, then it starts to dissolve, and that means you start to dissolve. So this is why we have to have the commitment, because if we don't have the commitment, then we'll just keep ourselves stuck at that point. We can't go any further because this is the edge. This is the edge between who I know myself to be and eternity. This is the edge between what is known and what is unknown. And so at best, if we keep clinging to that, if we're not willing to commit 100%, then we just sort of bounce around at that threshold, never fully committing to crossing it. And so we continue to hold on to that baggage. But here we have this possibility, which is to start to trust. To start to trust that all of the ideas, all of the reactions are all based upon that effortful self that is the burden that weighs us down, that we feel so tired of. So just watch and notice how inclusive this is. So this includes the physical sensations. It includes the thoughts, the memories, the images, all of these things, and other very subtle phenomena that it's hard to even really describe what that is, but you start to just become aware of all of this phenomena and notice how there is a habit of giving meaning to it, holding it together, maintaining some sense of control, a sense of safety. I know who I am, where I am, what I'm doing, and just see how much effort is involved in that, and then be willing just to let that go. Just keep letting go. So you could have an image perhaps of sinking, if that's useful, that you're sinking and all of the phenomena that is occurring. That means, again, the sensations, the thoughts, the memories, the images, and all of the subtle phenomena that you can't really put a label on. You are sinking in that. So here you start to recognize that habit of clinging to and identifying with these various phenomena is all unnecessary effort. So we could take the physical sensation, for example, see how that physical sensation, there's a habit of identifying with it, so that even though we say I have this sensation, it's really that I am this sensation. This sensation defines me. I am desperate to do something about this sensation, especially if it's something that I perceive to be unpleasant. And at the same time, I unconsciously have kept myself stuck because I don't know who I would be without it. So here we can just keep allowing allowing this sense of just sinking in and through, and then start to realize who is all of this phenomena occurring to. And then how far are you willing to commit? Because what starts to happen is that at a certain point there are further, we call them thresholds or gateways. And if you really observe, you'll notice that at each point there's a threshold, there's underpinning that is fear that I am going to be destroyed, or I can't. Or another one that can also occur is I am unworthy or unlovable. I am inadequate. Or another variation on that theme is I'm shameful. I have to hide. I have to protect. And so this can occur with any of the phenomena. It can be with physical sensation, it could be with thought, it could be with memory, it could be with any of these things. There can be this reaction. And just notice how if you indulge the reaction, that you're guaranteed to get the same result that you've always gotten with that reaction. So it's just a sort of a mechanical process in which you do that thing, you get that outcome consistently. So here again is where the commitment is important, because you have to recognize that that reaction is of the past and you're dissatisfied with the past. You don't want that. So what are you going to do? If you're going to just continue to indulge that, at least acknowledge that and recognize that and know that's what you're doing, and therefore you can expect that same outcome. But if you are really interested in something new, then it means you need a new perspective. Or how is that new perspective going to come? It has to come by having a different relationship. So in order to have that different relationship, there has to be some change. There has to be some movement. So you have to allow yourself to continue to sink. Even so, it's just a increasingly profound relaxation. So then you can start to notice there's also another thing that occurs, which we could call checking. So it's checking to see, has it changed yet? Am I different yet? Are my circumstances different? Is it all new yet? Are my problems solved yet? So if we're doing that, then we have to just notice what the result of that is. So that's another reaction. And the result of that will be that we continue to anchor ourselves in a sense of lack. We could just say generally lack of wealth, health, and happiness, a lack of okayness, a lack of wellness. So every time we check, what we're doing is we're reaching back into the past. So if you really want something new, we can't drag the past into it. The past is too much. So what's new we have to travel there very, very lightly. And every time we check or compare, we're reaching into the past and we're dragging this big burden. And it doesn't fit. So, again, like we're like the camel going through the eye of the needle. It's just not going to happen. So the beauty of this is that what we're seeing is nobody could tell us, could describe exactly our own experience or our own process, because it's in some sense unique to us, but we can observe it through this method. And what we're doing, in a sense, is we are unburdening ourselves of our own baggage so that we are open and free to be and receive and express the abundant flow of life. So maybe you've heard this Buddhist idea of emptying your bowl, because if you have a full bowl, then you can't receive. And so in a sense, we walk around with this full bowl, and this full bowl, we say, well, look how wonderful it is. It's all this stuff I've collected. It's all these good things. So there's some bad stuff in there too, but can't really, afraid to let it go, because if I let it go, I don't really believe that I'll receive what I need. And so even though it's heavy and it's painful and awkward and uncomfortable, and I don't really like it so much anymore, I'm afraid to let it go because of this fundamental lack. It's not a lack of things, because we have the things. It's not a lack of ideas or identity. It's just a fundamental sense of lack, that life is not okay. I'm not okay. And there's no amount of filling the bowl that can resolve that. In fact, the more we pile into the bowl, the more it reinforces that fundamental sense of lack. The only way for us to really resolve that is to finally empty the bowl, and to empty it so thoroughly that we've released even the stuff that we thought we absolutely needed in order to be ourselves, in order to be safe. We have to even let go of that. Because it's only when we let go of that that we're able to actually recognize directly not just as a thought, but in the actual experience, that I am here, I remain, even when all of that is gone. So notice here, when you let go of all that can be let go of, you surrender all that can be surrendered, you don't even touch a thought. Okay, so that doesn't mean that the thoughts, you stop thought. It doesn't mean you get rid of thought. It doesn't mean you protect yourself from thought. It just means let the thoughts come, let the thoughts go, let them not come, let them not go. Whatever happens, don't touch them. That's all. Just don't get involved. So the same with the sensations. Sensations come, sensations go. The sensations don't come, they don't go. Just don't get involved. And then notice, isn't it true that you are here? And look to see who is here. Who is this? Now, isn't it curious that what remains when everything else is let go has no form, has no shape, no name? And then that habit of checking is so funny. Here, the essential you is, this is clearly what's essential. Well, everything else can be let go of, but this is what remains. You can't let go of this because you don't have it. Notice that you are it. You are this. You are this which cannot be let go. There's nothing being held on to. There's not even anything here. And notice the nature of this isn't the nature of this. Couldn't we call this the ultimate wellness? The ultimate in abundance? The ultimate contentment? Because nothing can touch it, nothing can harm it, nothing can do anything to it. And it's alive. And just notice again, you are this. You let go of everything else, the thoughts come and go, but you don't touch them. The feelings come and go, you don't touch them. All of these things, the images come and go, you don't touch them. So this is what is remaining. And you know that you are. Not as a thought, but it's just obvious. I am this. It's not at a distance. I can't look at it. I can't make it into an object because I am it. Everything else is at a distance. Everything else I can see it, I can touch it, taste it, feel it, know it, perceive it, observe it. But this, I can't get away from it in order to look at it, to perceive it. It's too close. It's the only thing that's like this. And so here is this clear realization. And then notice that funny habit of checking, comparing. Yeah, but how am I going to make use of this? So then just see how all that's just another thought. And like all those thoughts, that this thought doesn't touch you either. It doesn't actually disturb you. So that habit of reconstructing the self-concept, the self-image, is still there, still exists. And so we touch upon or recognize this, which is prior to all of the concept. But that habit of reconstructing the identity remains. And so if we're not committed, then we'll just keep going back into that constructed identity, and then we'll be looking for health, wealth, and happiness according to the ideas, the habits within that identity. So we have to continue to commit. We have to really take that commitment seriously. And that commitment, again, is the based upon the realization that the past has not been satisfying. I am not fulfilled by the past. And all of these ideas about health, wealth, and happiness that I have within this construct are based upon that unfulfilling past, and they're actually false. They actually lead me in the wrong direction. So even though I genuinely believe that those definitions that I have are good and true, they are not. It's a mirage. So the mirage, if you've ever experienced a mirage, maybe you recognize you're walking or driving and you see what appears to be water up ahead. And your brain tells you that's water. And no matter how far you go, it's always just as far up ahead. So our ideas of health, wealth, and happiness, these constructs within our self concept, all based on the past, they're like mirages. They appear to be true. We think that is the truth. We think that's what health, wealth, and happiness are. And as long as we continue to pursue them, they continue to be always out of reach. But by the way, even if you could reach them, they would be unsatisfying because they're not actually what you want. So this commitment is a commitment to this undoing, and it's a commitment to this deep relaxation, which takes you right through this realm of all the discomfort, all of the tension, all of the holding on, all of the fear, anxiety, worry, stress, all of the sense that I've got to do it, I've got to hold it together, I've got to protect myself, I've got to get it right, I have to have a plan, I have to succeed. It takes us right through that realm. And so it's like we're thirsty and we're in search of water, and we've been chasing the mirage, and somebody says, you've got to stop. You've got to stop chasing after that. That won't give you what you want. And you say, okay, fine, I can see that, but where is the water? And they say, it's right here underneath you. It's right here underneath you. And you say, that can't be. It's dry. It's all dry. And you say, no, that's what you think. But you just stop and just let yourself be drawn into it. And you take the advice and you stop and you start to sink, and you freak out because you say, it's quicksand, I'm sinking, I'm going to die. Well, they say, just keep on sinking, and everything in you screaming, no, 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 not that. Because it's taking you into the unknown. You don't know this. And it's worse than that, because you think actually it's not just the unknown, it's death. It's certain death. So this, again, it requires commitment. It requires a little bit of desperation too. And radical honesty to be able to see that my pursuits have been mirages. My ideas of what health, wealth, and happiness would be are mirages. I don't really know. I'm afraid. I'm in pain. And I'm clueless. So we have this experience, and then we have to keep repeating the experience, this deep relaxation, because we allow ourselves to relax more and more deeply. We sink into these realms where we think this is death, this is certain death, and then we remain, even though something dissolves, something that we identified with dissolves, but we remain, we don't die. So we have this direct experience. I remain, I am here. And if we allow ourselves to continue to do this, we find that we come into contact with water. We drink from that, and there's a renewal, and then again we find ourselves in the desert with the mirage up ahead. So it's this process where we just keep finding ourselves in delusion with the mirage, and we have to remember that's the mirage. So we'll conclude this formal inquiry today. So if your eyes are closed, keep your eyes closed for just another moment. And as your eyes are closed, just notice yourself. Notice yourself in this unbounded, formless being, beyond concept, before concept. No shape, no form. And notice that this is already fulfilled. It's already complete. It's already abundant, because this is the wellspring of all that is. All experience comes from this. So notice that, perceive that, sense that, and then become aware of your face. So relax the face, let the face be soft, let the forehead be soft, let the eyes be soft, and continue to be aware of this boundless presence that's absolutely intimate, not at a distance. And then slowly begin to open the eyes and remain aware of that. And you might notice who is looking, who is seeing, or what is seeing. Notice that which is seeing is the same. It's the same. It's not, it has no form, it has no shape, it's not at a distance. So it doesn't disappear, it doesn't go somewhere else, it's not, it doesn't vanish, it's remains. And so always, even with the eyes open, this same wellspring of experience of this abundant nature, this boundless wellness, is already the case. So just be aware of that as you're going through your day. You can just notice how, when you seem to have problems, notice what you're doing. Notice how you're identifying with this self-concept. It's all about the past. All of these ideas about the past, and projecting those into the future and making them about somebody. And then just look to see and just renew that commitment. I'm done with the past. It's unfulfilling. I no longer want to live in the delusion of lack. I no longer want to live in the delusion of separation. But just notice what is seeing, what is experiencing? What is it that is perceiving? What is here? Notice that it remains untouched by all of the experience, and that its nature, which is your nature, is unbounded. Unknown, unlimited. So then there's a clear choice. Why tether yourself to the past that is unsatisfying? Why repeat that same reactions over and over and over and over and over, only to recreate the same confirmation of lack over and over and over and over? When it's a mirage, you can see that's not true wealth, health, or happiness. Chasing after that only leads to suffering. The conditioned mind reaches its limit and it says, don't go there, that's dangerous. That will be death. But that's where the commitment comes in. I won't fall for that any longer. I have had the experience. Not only have I had the experience, that still remains. That once you have that experience, it's always here. It doesn't actually disappear. You can recognize it always. And so it really just becomes a matter of choice. What are you going to do? Are you going to betray that, which really just means self-betrayal, or are you going to honor that commitment, which isn't about anyone else? It's really just about yourself. So then it comes down to, this really is a radical re-understanding of self-love, because it comes down to self-love, but it's not, oh, look how great I am, I love myself so much. It's, I love myself so much that I won't lie any longer. I won't lie about who I am. I won't hold on to anything. I won't continue to injure myself with these lies. Whatever comes, there's no need to get involved. There's no need to touch any thought, because all those thoughts are from the past. None of them can satisfy. And what is fresh and new and alive and here and real is rejuvenating, refreshing, but it's completely unknown. So for those who are here live, we'll stay on for the Q&A. I'm going to end the recording of the formal inquiry now. So there will be the announcement, don't be surprised.